Hello, Detroit and the world. Welcome to another episode of Authentically Detroit, broadcasting live from the Lower East Side here in the city, powered by the East Side Community Network and sponsored by none other than the Ford Foundation, now a content partner to the new bridgedetroit.com. I'm Orlando Bailey.
And I'm Donna Gibbons-Davidson.
Thank you for listening in and supporting our efforts to build a platform of authentic voices for real people on the East Side of Detroit. We want you to like, rate, and subscribe. Subscribe to our podcast on whatever platform you listen to us on. We drop a new episode every week, so be sure to turn on those notifications. Donna, it's good to see you. Certainly a lot going on in the world, but how are you?
Goodness. Honestly, I'm feeling a little bit drained, pretty sad today. We lost an icon, a champion of the East Side in Wayne County Commissioner Jewel Ware. Our sheriff is hospitalized on a ventilator. And it just reminds me today how real all of this is. So between that and the misbehavior of the GOP, they're going to lose, but they're losing so ugly. And the things that they're releasing into the world are just so unattractive that it really has me in a different kind of mood today. How about you?
I'm okay. Really a productive day. Of course, was saddened to hear about Wayne County Commissioner Jewel Ware, and I was sharing with the Bridge Detroit team that every meeting, and every gathering and plan and study, she was there. She was gonna make sure she showed up. I mean, just an outright champion, and especially a champion for senior citizens here on the East Side of Detroit. It is a tremendous loss, not only for the city of Detroit, but for the county and the state. So our condolences go out to Jewel Ware's family. I'm doing okay. Again, productive week. We took the week off last week. I was going through a very painful loss of a friend, a young friend of mine who I had the pleasure of knowing since he was 11 years old, and he was taken away from us so early at just age 22. So it's been hard, and so I appreciate you for allowing the space for a break, the space for a breather, because I really needed it. Yeah.
But I a good friend suffered a loss. Her nephew, who's 26 years old, was killed in a car accident, and I think I shared that with you.
Yeah.
And you shared your loss with me, and I knew him when he was a little boy.
Yeah.
And you know, here's the hard thing about COVID: you don't know how to be there for people because you can't show up.
I mean, the season has literally robbed us of how we usually support and grieve with our friends and loved ones. Like I said on Facebook, like the funeral home said 25 people in attendance. I'm not a blood relative, so I had to show deference. That's real. I mean, geez.
So, I'm hearing, well, don't call us. So, send money. So I sent money, which is all I know to do, but that's not what you do as a human being. And so the absence of touch, the absence of hug, the absence of taking somebody food and letting them cry on your shoulders, you can send stuff.
Right. That's what we do. We take people chicken.
Yeah. So I don't know if anybody's kitchen is, but it's a way of feeling connected to people when they're grieving. And now it's all very disconnected. I had not known until today that Jewel Ware was the longest serving Wayne County Commissioner.
Either.
I just know this about her. She was Wayne County Commissioner, long serving, showed up at meetings, was kind, friendly, helpful, and unpretentious. And the kind of leader who cared about people, but was never about her title and using it to influence or try to exert power in meetings. And her death through a heart attack is a reminder that COVID is not the only health issue that we have to watch out for. We have to be careful about our cardiovascular health. Do you watch Real Housewives?
Donna, you've been trying to get me to watch Real Housewives. I'm sorry, I just
I
can't
watched
get into
Real Housewives of Atlanta,
it.
and I'm not trying to throw any shade, but all of the housewives have gained quite a bit of weight. I did too, but I've been dieting and
Holy
taking it
wait.
back off. It's like, oh my goodness, COVID-19, you just sitting there. All you have to do is eat. Eating becomes a pastime. I had to watch myself like, girl, if you buy an all new wardrobe, well, you're gonna have to start reducing. But I was watching Real Housewives. I was like, dang, even on TV, I can see the struggle. It's real. And all of them talked about it. But how do you maintain your health? Because eating is a way of comforting yourself. Eating is a way of just passing time.
Yeah.
And so I think that, one of the things that's going to be big on my mind moving forward is wellness. ECN is taking a move and saying, you know what, we are turning our offices into a wellness hub where we focus on the 9 dimensions of wellness.
Come through.
Beyond prevention, we get beyond intervention, and we say, how do we keep our people healthy on a spiritual level, on a social and emotional level, intellectually, creatively, physically, and when you start economically, when you start looking at all of those 9 dimensions, environmentally, when we start looking at wellness as something we push in our community, hopefully, after we get through this period, when the next pandemic hits, we're ready.
Yeah. Oh, it's so hard. It's so hard. We recognize it's hard for people, and we hope that those of you who listen to the show on the regular, that you get a little ounce of joy, especially in the beginning. Today is it's a different kind of day. We lost a warrior, we lost a champion in our community. We certainly had to acknowledge that at the top of the show. It's time for Fresh Off the Press. News that we are thinking about. If you have pieces that you want discussed on Authentically Detroit, you can hit us up on our socials at Authentically Detroit on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or you can email us at authenticallydetroit@gmail.com. Donna, Fresh Off the Press.
Hey, before I get to that, so I won't be so gloomy, Luna turned 3 this past week.
Happy birthday, Luna!
Luna was 3. Happy birthday, Luna, my grandbaby.
Already.
So amazing. Oh my goodness. So that was the highlight of the weekend, was my grandbaby turning 3.
Happy birthday.
And, I mean, she had it all. I got her first set of pearls, real pearls, because grandma, right?
I know.
People told me what having a grandchild was going to do, and I was like, not me. And then I had one. So of course we had to get her that and her Minnie Mouse phone, which she has been asking for. Where's my pink phone? Where's my circle phone? So it was a great day. Spent time with family, watched my granddaughter. And so that's the other thing. The circle of life is seeing young people,
without a care in the world,
and just watching them take over, right? So yeah, we all work for Luna now.
Oh, believe me, I know. I saw it at your wedding. Luna took the opportunity to say, I don't care what y'all got going on. I know y'all getting married and all of that, but this is my show. You understand me? This is my show. I love to watch her, just full of life, full of joy. Yeah. Man, happy 3rd birthday, Luna.
Yes. So on to the news story. The ironically named Whiteford tells Detroit to have passion.
Wait, you gotta warn me where you gonna be pulling that with all. First it was pimps, right? I'll never forget that pimp line. And then you start the ironically named Whiteford. Okay, that's where we are tonight. Okay, I'm gonna meet you there. I'm with you. Let's go.
All right. Thank you. So, our own Cynthia Johnson, State Rep Cynthia Johnson, who was portrayed on Saturday Night Live during that painful, ridiculous faux hearing that Giuliani had at the state capitol, exposing everybody to COVID. Following that hearing, after she asked a witness to spell her name, has been receiving death threats. So she shared death threats and she shared all of the hang up calls with her colleagues so they could understand what was happening. And State Rep Mary Whiteford from Casco Township, a place I've never heard of, said her conduct during the hearing was heartless and that she should have compassion for those you disagree with. And I suppose in
That
being
she should not use her
compassionate,
power to make people spell their names.
because that is just so rude. I mean, it's so crazy to me. And this is following our state rep, Cynthia Johnson, posting several messages to her Facebook page, including one with where a caller says she should be swinging from a rope. And she's called multiple racial slurs.
It's asinine. Kimberly Craig ran it on Channel 7, and they actually played some of the voicemails. You were able to hear the evilness and the disturbing nature of some of these messages. And it reminds me that this is where we are as a country, especially with folks who really see Black people in power as threatening, folks who really are upset that the Black vote has prevailed. And so someone made the point about, getting out to the polls, but what are we doing to protect our vote? And folks like Jonathan Kinlock and folks like Cynthia Johnson and folks like Jocelyn Benson are doing everything that they can to make sure that our votes are protected, much to the dismay of their lives being threatened. There were folks outside of Jocelyn Benson's home armed, chanting, stop the steal. And all of these claims have been debunked in court. The Supreme Court just denied the Trump campaign request to overturn the results in, I think it was Pennsylvania, excuse me, the state. And so all of these are baseless, but what he is intentionally doing is creating an atmosphere of, and what he has done throughout the entire presidency is create a polarizing atmosphere that turns into danger. Polarization leads to people's lives being in danger. You can't tell me if folks are lined up outside my house armed that they don't want to use their arms. I'm sorry, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, you can't tell me.
First of all, this using guns and showing up, I'm reading A Promised Land by Barack Obama, and it's a good book. I don't like every aspect of it. I wish I hadn't read the parts about Jeremiah Wright because it pulls you into another culture war, but it's a good book. And he talks in part about when he was in San Francisco, and he made the comment about rural people clinging to guns and religion. And he regrets having said that. And it's like, but it's true, isn't it? That's what they're doing. They're clinging to their guns and their religiosity. I won't even say it's religion, because somehow Trump is the redeemer in their other faith that has nothing to do with anything related to Christ, but Trump is their redeemer and he's the chosen one. And they're using their guns to establish their authority over people. I mean, it's crazy. And it really speaks to some things that are not new and are not Trump, because this started before Trump. This started actually when Barack Obama was a candidate.
Absolutely.
And he needed Secret Service long before any candidate did, because the threats to his life were more severe and more often than ever in recorded history. It started when his citizenship was called into question. Yep. And birtherism was made a thing. It started when somebody spliced together a bunch of Jeremiah Wright's sermons to try and say he was un-American. It started when they said he wasn't wearing a flag pin, like many other people weren't wearing flag pins, but somehow him wearing a flag pin was an issue. It started when birtherism, he provided a long form birth certificate to prove he was American. And people said, oh no, we still don't believe it. Because illegitimacy in their mind had nothing to do with the fact that they did not believe what's on a sheet of paper. He was not legitimate as president because he was a Black man. And, and then you have Colin Powell who kneeled, and when he kneeled, it was said that he was un-American and he was disrespecting our troops. I mean, this had nothing to do with a real love of our troops, and we know that because when
Come on.
Russia put a bounty on their heads, same folks didn't blink. So, this carries over to delegitimize the first Black president and then now try to delegitimize Black voters in general, is a serious thing. The only warning I have, I'm going to get some pushback from this possibly, is that we have to be very careful in Detroit when we get upset that we don't contribute to those narratives. We cannot like our city clerk, and we can think we need a new city clerk. But when we share suspicion also that her behavior is illegitimate and illegal, that does not protect our votes. People can sometimes draw on that and use it as a means, sometimes our own words. The reality is Daniel Baxter was right there beside you helping with this vote, and you saw what he was doing. And his credibility and his
Absolutely.
competency has been called into question over the years. He has been the director of election all of these years. So, people are coming after the clerk, who I believe we need a new clerk. I'm not saying we don't, but I think that how we criticize people and how we engage in electoral politics and how we engage in criticism is very important. If what we're communicating is we don't believe these votes matter, then we have to understand there are people who are ready to take our votes away from us completely and
Completely.
say we're corrupt. And so I hope that we can figure
Woo,
out
that's a word.
ways to engage in political dialogue and debate that don't end up contributing to a narrative of corruption and fraud in our own elections, such that everybody else feels like they can seize on that.
And sometimes, can some of these conversations and criticisms be inside conversation and not in front
Uh,
of this company? You know what I'm saying? Like, why do we always have, why do we always gotta have our conversations so loud and so in public and publicly disparage and disagree with each other? Some of this stuff needs to happen intra community, and
I
let that be that.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, look at the Republicans. They will not come out and say Donald Trump lost the election.
Come
Okay,
on,
I'm
they got
not
an
saying
inside
that
strategy.
kind of cult, but they have enough. They have some inside conversations they don't let us hear. Not on Parlor, but they have some inside conversations they don't let us hear. I agree with you. I think that we have got to say and do things understanding the world is listening, and the world would like to believe that we are corrupt, that we are incompetent, and we are not capable of managing our own government. And so, out of self love, I just say, I want to make sure that I personally, this is my commitment,
Yeah.
that I will personally not contribute to dialogue that calls into question the sanctity and the validity of our local elections, even when I don't like the results.
I appreciate you saying that, and my heart goes out to every public official who is receiving threats. I'm praying for your mental health because that can be taxing, and I am praying for your safety, and to every journalist who is also receiving widespread threats, even in the Bridge, Michigan newsroom as well. We're thinking about you, and we are praying for you. I know that that can't be an easy pill to swallow.
And I
Um,
hope that we start prosecuting people for terror and harassment and all of that behavior. We have a way of finding out who some of these people are. I don't say ease up. We know there's people who called for the death of some public officials, and even public officials I don't like. Remember last year when the Secretary of State in Georgia was the one we hated
yeah,
and
yeah.
trust, and, and now, so now he's and the director of elections for the United States or whoever it was over all of our elections is named Krebs, who's being
Mm.
threatened, and people are saying he should be drawn and quartered. We live in a time where I think we all just have to think through the importance of democracy. I've never
And
ever
just
felt
how
so.
precious it is.
Yes.
I saw. I don't think I realized just how traumatic being at TCF Center was during the Central Counting Board. It is something that is so precious that I think people who saw that and witnessed it, even if you weren't there, but on TV, uh, that's going to stick with you. That's gonna stay with you. I've never seen anything like that in my life. I've never seen anything like that, and it's living proof to the critics that say that our votes don't count. Yes, they do.
Yes.
Our votes count.
Yeah.
Black Detroit votes count.
Right.
Fresh off the press, Black Hispanic Detroiters hesitant to take coronavirus vaccine. Olivia Lewis from Bridge, Detroit, is reporting. So this is a survey that was done by the Detroit Metro Area Community Study through the University of Michigan that found that Black and Hispanic Detroiters were more likely to say that they would not get the vaccine than any other group. And the survey data and local experts indicate a correlation to a lack of trust on part of Detroiters, ongoing racial health disparities, lack of access to reliable information, and people's refusal to get vaccinated. So, funny story. I had a hand in getting this story sort of sourced. I posed a question last week on my Facebook page that asked the question: if a vaccine became available, would you get vaccinated? I had no idea, and Donna, you're actually on that thread as well, that the thread will become this thing that it became, right? And sort of, a sounding board for everybody with every kind of opinion imaginable coming on and saying yes or no. One of the things, though, that stuck out to me, even in my small firsthand data independent survey, was that most of the people who were saying no to the vaccine or not yet to the vaccine were Black folks. And most of the folks who were saying yes were non-Black folks. And it was even the case on my Instagram feed. And, one of the, and people, cited sources about the Tuskegee experiment, Henrietta Lacks, all of these encounters that Black folks have had with a health system that gives us disparate care. And so Olivia, I thought, did a great job of capturing, some of the folks who said no as to why. And I think this is a conversation that we really need to have intentionally if we expect for the curve of the coronavirus spike to go down in 2021 and we return to a new sense of normalcy, not go back to what was, but a new sense of normalcy, but a normalcy where, Donna, me and you can be inside of the studio and I can hug you and I can see you face to face. And so, it's concerning to me, right? But what's also concerning is that we very clearly have, a Black population within the city of Detroit that is in active trauma. It's not that people are being traumatized or have been traumatized. Folks are experiencing active trauma as we speak, and there is no trust to corporations and no trust to the health system.
Well, I mean, if some people consider the virus to be the China virus, the vaccine is Trump's vaccine. He's the one who developed Operation Warp Speed and has been promising a vaccine all of this time. And 10 months is an exceptionally fast time frame to develop a vaccine. It has not been peer reviewed in medical journals. The FDA has not yet approved it. And nobody really, really knows the side effects on our populations. So, when you have.
Can you say more about that? Because I like what you said. That was a powerful sentence. Nobody really knows the side effects on all populations. Can you say more about what you mean when you say that?
Oh, yeah. So when you do drug testing or any type of medical testing, the first thing they do is they test it among people who are similar in terms of age, race, health conditions, so that they can control for differences, right? So they have these control groups. And I'm not a scientist, I'm a layperson, but this is my understanding. So if there are any scientists.
Excuse me, you are a lecturer at Columbia University. Whatever you say is oak. Keep going, we listening.
But there are control groups. And so what you try to do is evaluate how it works by having people who are similar. Okay. And so they have different racial groups they've tested it with. They're just now testing it with young people. I don't know that they've tested it with people because I haven't seen any peer reviewed articles or anything like that who have pre-existing conditions. I haven't seen how the drug impacts diabetics. What I do know is that some people are saying that there are some side effects, and the side effects kind of mimic a mild case of COVID-19. And that's after your first dose. Then you have to go back and get a second dose. So I think that this idea that it's like the MMR vaccine where you just go in and they shoot it in your arm, you don't have to come back for 15 years or whatever the time frame is. This is not where we're at. We're at a vaccine where they're still in the process of trying to evaluate how well it works. And one of the first things that happened when they first started talking about the vaccine, there were French doctors who said, "Oh, we should test it in Africa."
I remember that.
Right?
Ridiculous.
Well, we all remember that because, Black folks have that Tuskegee kind of memory where we're like, huh, Africa? Or we should test it in prisons. And you start looking at, wait a minute, are these populations of people that you want to test it in because you want to protect them? Or is it because you're trying to look for populations of people who might be a little bit more disposable than others? People who, well, you know what, if Africans die, they're going to die anyway. I actually heard some things like they don't have much to lose. And so when you choose populations, I think that's one of the issues is the lack of knowledge of the test, the lack of scientific certainty, and the fact that Donald Trump has not listened to scientists. I want to say something about Black people, though. Black people are more likely to wear masks than any people. Black people are socially distancing and not necessarily in these big gatherings. And even when we protest, we're masked up and trying to stay apart. That's why the COVID rate in Detroit has plummeted because we are following science. So the only concern I have is when people somehow try to conflate a hesitancy to use a Trump vaccine while Trump is president and in control of distribution and say, well, hey, Black people are superstitious or anti-science, or we're not doing what's necessary to make this thing go away. When Joe Biden is president and Kamala Harris is vice president, and they install their people over all of these agencies, and they are not calling the head of the FDA in to start demanding answers to why they have not finally approved the virus. When we put scientists back in charge of science, and we have people we trust overseeing the institutions of government, come back and ask Black and Hispanic people how they feel about this. When we have answers to some of these questions, and when people are going out and saying, here is how things work, and we're getting information that we want to receive. But you know who's anti-science? It's not Black folks. You want to see some anti-science? There's some communities you can go to
right now.
Beat you up for telling you to wear a mask and tell you masks don't work. So that's my only issue. I think it's an important thing for us to understand. I think it's important for us to understand. In reading Caste by Isabel Wilkerson, she talks about the centuries of scientific experimentation. We only know about Tuskegee. There's so much more. The father of the gynecology experimented on Black women and Black infants. Disgusting man, a predator, somebody who treated us as though our life had no value. So there's a little healthy suspicion. When they roll out the vaccine, here's what I suggest. They don't make a racial differentiation between who gets it and who doesn't. Don't come in telling us, well, we're going to do this because you guys are more at risk and we're concerned about you, because we don't believe you. You're trying to cut off our health care. So we don't believe you're concerned about our lives.
Well, Donna, can I go back to this point though? Like, I like what you're saying and you don't want to distribute it by race, but I also think in terms of population, you talked about people with pre-existing conditions and, all kinds of pre-existing health challenges, but isn't, race also a population that we need to pay attention to when we talk about side effects, because of course, there are certain diseases that plague different races more than they plague others. And so What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that during the vaccine trials, they should demonstrate through their studies and release of data the differences in how Black people
Trial.
who've been in those vaccine studies have reacted. I
Yeah.
want to know. And I'm the type of person who will try to think I can read. I won't understand everything. I'm going to try to read that journal article anyway, just to look for some numbers and try to understand. But I think, as importantly, we need people who are scientists on television, in network news, explaining to us what all of this means. Trusted, independent
Yeah.
people who are not attached to the outcome. And when that happens, I believe we will be full scale doing this because, of course, we care about our health. We care about our children. We care about our communities. We want to be able to hug each other. We want to go to church and just feel safe. We want to be able to memorialize people who have left us. We want to be able to go back to work. I never thought I'd miss going to work so much. You know, I'm like, I miss an
Let
office.
me tell you, I do too. I never was the work from home type. I love being in the office around people.
so, so I think we're going to be okay. And I'm glad you guys are raising it, but I think we're going to be okay. I just don't think we're ready yet. And I think that we don't even always think through why we're not ready yet. It's a gut feeling. Nope.
And I think that's why this conversation is important, because I think it's important to be able to name why, right? If you have a stance, you have made a decision, especially if you want to engage in public discourse about it, which was that Facebook post. It helps to have, to be able to name why you feel the way that you feel. And I think these are conversations that are being daylighted to the larger world that we have always had within our community. And I think it's good. I think it's good that people are seeing the conversations that are this conversation that's happening within the Black community, and how the level of distrust for this president and for the health system at large is palpable. It's really something. That wraps up our Fresh Up the Press segment. If you have pieces that you want discussed on Authentically Detroit, you can hit us up on our socials at Authentically Detroit on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or you can email us at authenticallydetroit@gmail.com. Donna, some really big news today out of the city of Detroit. The municipal government actually, Mayor Mike Duggan held a press conference with his public health officer, Dr. Abdul El Saeed, the director of the water department, Gary Brown, and he announced that the city will extend a moratorium on water shutoffs until the year 2022. I got the embargo press release earlier this morning, and I had thoughts, a lot, a lot of thoughts surrounding this announcement. But certainly, this is good news for a lot of folks who are and have been worried about how they're going to pay their water bills if the moratorium was lifted. But Donna, let me ask you this: is this the fix? Is this what we have been fighting for? Is this what we've been demanding for years and years as activists and community organizers, all of that?
Water activists have been fighting for a water affordability plan that would make the cost of water more affordable for low income people and create a sliding scale so that people are not overpaying for water, or that the water rates are not regressive. And the city has resisted that, saying that there is a Headley Amendment that stops them from being able to differentiate between income groups. They have to charge the same thing. Now, the city did make a distinction between churches and other businesses and other people who had to pay stormwater drainage
I
fees.
remember that.
And they said they were willing to do that because they could justify that churches did good things, as though, other groups do not do good things worthy of getting a water rebate. But, they took the risk, expect to lose, but it's a politically smart thing to do to slow down the rates on churches right before an election year, I suppose. And so they took that risk. But the reality is, this moratorium is not a moratorium on your bill, it's a moratorium on the shutoffs. People are still being charged the highest water rates in the state, the highest water, sewage, and drainage fee rates in the state of Michigan, and some of the highest rates in the nation every month.
And are they
And
still accumulating
so
bills as the moratorium?
absolutely.
Okay.
As we're sheltering in place, our bills, people's bills are sometimes double, 2.5 times what they normally were. And the city says, well, that's because you're using more water. So in that sense, the cost of water burden has shifted from employers to households that a lot of times can't afford to pay it. And there are people who still don't understand their bills and believe their bills are unfair. So the city says, okay, they have this through the CARES Act, they have a fund that allows them to discount the bills of low income people by $25 a month. And they also have funding through the RAP program to help repair people's
Plumbing.
plumbing so
Yeah.
that people are using less water, hypothetically. But the reality is there's only some places that those plumbing fixes apply. And also $25 a month on a bill that may be $200 a month is not enough. So if you are giving people a moratorium and you're not shutting them off until 2022 and they're not paying their bill until 2022, it's possible you're going to have people who owe a couple $1,000s by the time 2022 comes along because they haven't been paying anything. And a lot of times because I haven't had much to pay. And the question is, what happens when you hit that balloon? Because you're going to have another crisis.
Right.
Now,
we're going to be
what
having
Dr. El Sayed's job is to try to generate longstanding policy changes and resources that will help pay some of those bills through philanthropy and through state and federal resources, so that at the end of the day, you're not going to see that. But it still won't be a water affordability plan. What will happen is low income people who meet certain guidelines will be included in this, reduction. So it may be like pay as you stay, where people's bills still exist, but they're able to discount them by a large amount. We don't know.
Mm.
The thing is, though, that it doesn't deal with the infrastructure cost of water, and the fact that even if you're not considered low income, water is a burden on households in our community. And so creating an affordability framework that says, even if you are $10,000 above that threshold and you're still struggling financially because you're paying higher car insurance and you're paying higher taxes and everything else, that you still qualify for some assistance, or your water is still affordable. And that is where water activists differentiate between having affordability and having charity, because charity can come and make a change, but it's a temporary fix that does not continue on.
That's right, Donna.
Here is my hope and my prayer. And here's my concern. It got announced so close to the election rollout that it feels as though there's a political character to this announcement. And of course, when
absolutely it is.
So if it's political, then if it's problem solving and you're really, really trying to solve the problem, we have some of the most preeminent experts on water affordability in the nation in Detroit. Monica Lewis Patrick is nationally known. Anywhere you go in the United States, if you say you're from Detroit and you're working anywhere around sustainability, the first person's name who comes up is Monica Lewis Patrick. We need to use her expertise. And when I say use her expertise, I mean pay her for it, but I also mean give her outcomes some credence. Don't just use her name in a press release, but use her knowledge and her influence to help shape what your policy is.
Come on.
And often what has happened is the very same people who now say we're on the same side of the street have never apologized for minimizing the concerns that she has been raising over the years, for denying that there was a correlation between health care and water. Now you can't get away from it now that you have COVID, but she's been saying this for years. She deserves her due. If I were running for mayor, and I'm serious about this, I would put her in the front of my task force and let Dr. El Sayed certainly support her, but there's other people who need to be at that table with her, not just her, but she certainly is at the center of the table.
Absolutely.
Other thing is there is a Detroiter Bill of Rights. And so if you are concerned about water, be concerned about the fact that people need shelter, be concerned about people's environmental needs and environmental rights, be concerned about economic parity, be concerned about all of it. Don't just love for me to have water, love for me to have a quality of life. And that's
Quality.
where I am hoping, but not hopeful, that the mayor gets in touch with the Detroiters Bill of Rights and decides, I'm going to take this on.
I don't
And
think
if
it's gonna
that
happen.
doesn't happen, that one policy, that water policy, for me, is not enough.
But Donna, you see, I found the bell. I got a bell now. Since we're not in the studio still. I'll say this. This is the kind of announcement that wins elections, right? You you mentioned earlier around this being a political announcement. I definitely think it is politically expedient for the mayor, and he's a masterful politician, to announce this the day before he's announcing his candidacy for re-election to run for mayor next year. That's happening. We're recording Tuesday night, guys, and so Wednesday morning or afternoon on December the 9th, you will hear an announcement for the mayor's rebid for his seat as mayor. This is the kind of thing that wins elections. And I think that we have to, sort of be honest and open about, the folks that are within our sphere of influence and in our circles, who are having the conversations that you and I have every week, who understand charity versus systemic change that is, long lasting, and who is not afraid to push back against power when it is absolutely positively necessary. But one of the things that the proposal N and proposal B taught me is that an effective mediated strategy that's splashy, that actually does help people, right? Is sometimes more than enough to win elections. And so I know that I was sort of shocked at how proposal in won, by just, a huge landslide. But I thought about the neighborhood billboards, and I thought about the commercials, and I thought about the news coverage and things that it got. The mayor is an effective fundraiser and politician, and this is the kind of thing that will help him get elected. The question or the statement that I would make in all the grand scheme of things is, okay, it's a temporary fix. We thank you for that. People need that fix, right? But it is not good for cities, and it is not good for politics to go unchallenged, right? The mayor needs a formidable opponent in the year 2021. And I want to make this very clear, that if you are planning on running, you are already behind.
I think that if I took off all of the hats that I wear and all of the people I'm around, I'm very well informed like you are, because we are included in a lot of conversations, and we see things and we're able to analyze them up close. But pull back and think of yourself living in a city where the garbage is picked up and the street lights are on, and where you do see some improvements, and demolitions do make certain things look better. We are in the weeds, and we're looking at, yes, you could have spent this money on this instead of that. But people sometimes are accustomed to absolutely nothing happening. I'm talking to a community leader, and they said, do you really think that proposal M won't pass? And I said, well, no, I think it may not, because, okay, so the mayor has done some things that we can disagree with. But the reality is, do people vote for mayors and vote for policies that are perfect? No. Or policies that are good? I don't know if it's even just the billboards. I think people may be looking at that vacant house across the street.
Across the street from them, absolutely. It's real for a lot of folks.
What Duggan has done is he has created a vision. We may not like his vision, but he's created a vision, and he has created a rationale for him to be in office. If you're going to beat him, you have to have your own vision and your own rationale for being in office and be able to communicate to people that you can do it successfully. If you can't, people in a lot of instances, I believe, will say, better the devil I know. You don't have to like him. You don't have to like everything about him, but you feel as though the trains will run on time with him in charge. And so Proposal N was running unopposed. It's not like, do you want Proposal N or do you want Proposal A with all the things you like? It was Proposal N or nothing at all. We a lot of times believe negativity and we believe our criticisms will help defeat things. And I don't believe that's true. I think that you've got to sell a compelling alternative vision. I believe those visions
Great
exist,
analysis. It's a great analysis.
but I just want to see what it is. And until then, I think that we have to understand and not criticize Detroiters, because Detroiters
That's
have
right.
been through emergency management, bankruptcy. We've been through, remember when HUD was taking back money and the health department was taken away and we were losing departments? And
Our
Detroiters have
department,
been
our
through
health
these-
department was contracted out. We didn't even have the health department. Yeah.
and Wayne Metro was created because the Detroit Department of Neighborhoods, I can't remember the name of that department, was unable to spend their money, and people were worried about spending money on furniture. So either it was really, really, really bad press. Do you remember when there was talk about mothballing parts of the city and we're not going to have fire service and police service?
Essentially putting up a gate and closing it down. Yeah.
So Detroiters remember that. Detroiters remember when schools were closed in our neighborhoods. We remember all of that. And what I will say is, just like you can't put all of what is wrong with America on Trump, you cannot put all of what is wrong with Detroit on Duggan. We've had systemic issues, and we have to fix our systemic issues. And when we make our response about the people, I like this person, I don't like this person, and not about policy. And when we make our response about hostility and anger as opposed to vision and joy and really being able to sell something, I think we'll lose. So whoever is running, who's ever going to run against Duggan, if anybody, man's or woman's up and, comes to the table, I would suggest that without a vision, people perish. Bring your vision.
Come on, Bible. Come on.
Bring your vision.
You know what, Donna, I really like that because, one of the main criticisms that a lot of Gen Zers had with some of the moderate candidates in the messaging of the Democratic Party throughout the presidential campaigns is that it's not enough for you to be anti-Trump, right? What is your vision? What are your policy statements? Where can I research how you're going to get things done? Is there a website? What is your message outside of Trump ain't it? And I'm not saying that that's people's message in Detroit about Mike Duggan. A lot of people love Mike Duggan. I think people are exhaling at an exponential rate after the announcement today. I know that this is a palpable feeling for a lot of people, not being able to have water as a public health hazard. The mayor did a good thing today. I want to say that. But when we talk about, political competition, lofty vision is it. Like, this is the time for you to be big, audacious, and daring. And, I'm waiting to see who throws their hat in the ring, if anybody does. Yeah.
Well, with your comparison about the national races that just took place and the disappointment that senators had and people in the House had, and the decision that we'll just blame progressives because we don't like them anyway. And, so Biden won handily, right?
Yeah.
But we lost House seats. We lost one Senate seat and gained 3, and we're looking to see if we can get 2 more. The narrative.
Did you see that Georgia debate? Golly. But go ahead, finish your point.
You know what? Listen, I attended the Harvard Summer Leadership Institute in 2002, and Raphael Warnock was my classmate.
Oh, that's dope.
So I knew him in 2002 to be a really good person, super smart. He gave the closeout sermon that
you talked about him to me before. Yes.
Yes.
That's the guy who brought it down.
did. And he was at Ebenezer Church. So I can say that everything he says about his beliefs, his character, he was very respectful to me as a woman in this sea of men. So I do think good things about him, and I thought he did a good job. But here's the thing: you've got to run on something.
Yes.
And a lot of people were running on checking Trump, or Trump messed up. And so voters said, okay, fine, we'll get rid of Trump, but we don't know why we should
What are we
like you better
getting?
than this other person.
Yeah.
We need a coherent vision. And the way that people, so I just think it's one of those things that needs to happen. I think it'll come together. I'm hopeful about that. But I think that the need to get rid of Trump was such a burning thing that now we have to remember that we still have to fight for the things we want.
We
I'm
still got to
so
pay attention to
happy.
cabinet appointees. We got to pay attention, and we got to fight, and we got to, push this conversation and these agendas. Yeah.
And once they're there, then we need to make demands on them.
That's
You
right.
are employed by me, okay? You work for me and every other American.
Yeah.
And therefore, we need to make demands on the people we employed and we selected somehow to represent our government and run our government. So I think that with the water shutoff, I think it's a great thing to have happen right now. I think that now is the time to also make demands for systemic changes so that before this great thing ends, we don't end up just pushing the cart down the road. We need to figure out how to move the cart out of the road completely. And that's where I think the activists can come together with some realistic demands. And I really believe that our demands need to be not tied to a candidate, but tied to our policy values, and really saying to anybody who's running for anything, where do you stand on water as a human right? Where do you stand on housing as a human right? Healthcare, food, all of the things that we need. If you have caveats, well, housing is a human right, but people, Lord helps those who help themselves, you may or may not be somebody I can support. And we need to get you on record. So I think this is a good start. Whoever else comes out, there is a Detroiters Bill of Rights, and those are a set of platform ideals that have been pulled together by a number of activists, and we can just start asking questions along those lines. In fact, Orlando, over the next few months, I would like for us to invite a couple folks on this show, Mayor Duggan, anybody he's running against, answer these questions, where you stand on the Detroit Bill of Rights, or anything else that we think is relevant to the needs of the people in our population.
You heard it here first, folks. Mayor Duggan, you, of course, you've always had, but you have an open invitation to appear here on Authentically Detroit with Donna Givens-Davidson and myself, especially after the announcement tomorrow, and any other person who throws their hat in the ring. We want you to stop through Authentically Detroit. Our listeners, they listen, they hope, and they'll hold you accountable. And I think it's a good place. This is a platform you shouldn't ignore. The other piece about what you said, Donna, around this, it being about policy and not the person. I am so looking forward to election season next year here in the city of Detroit, even around the city council races. I think that we're going to see something exponentially different than what we've seen in years past. But I'm also looking forward to, watching you and watching you from afar and at the forefront of a lot of these conversations around policy and the Detroiters Bill of Rights. You were of a lot of the social justice warriors and activists that were named in today's press conference and following literature after the press conference. And so your work is cut out for you, but I, as the journalist between the two of us, will be on standby to ask all of the questions and help to amplify and provide platform for the Detroiters, the constituency that is alongside you. Like you're not just representing East Siders on the East Side. East Siders are alongside you. They're with you, and they represent themselves pretty well. So I'm looking forward to it. This is going to be something that everyone is going to be paying attention to. Another thing that Donna and I have been talking a lot about, along with a few other folks, is transparency around city budgeting. Right. Another question that I posed on my Facebook status was around Barack Obama's comment around defund the police being a snappy slogan. And it's certainly a conversation that we've been having here in the city of Detroit around our budget for the police department. And budgeting starts in January. And so Detroiters, activists, and organizers, we have, a lot of work cut out for you guys next year. But my promise to everybody is that we will be part of the public record at Bridge Detroit, especially around budgetary issues and the budgeting process in the city of Detroit. We have to be.
How you spend your money speaks to what your values are. You can say you love me, but I need to see your balance sheet, Martha Jean, Martha Jean Queen used to have a radio show where on payday she would call out, let wives know that the husbands got paid from the plant.
That's right. My great granny used to say, "No finance, no romance."
Exactly. You bring your money home. You can say you love me, but is the heat on? I just watched Crooklyn again this weekend, and oh my goodness, had another.
The lights went out.
The lights went out, and when she was just trying so hard. So I think that how our government spends its money really speaks to who our government values. And I also believe that when you know better, you do better. And so to the extent we can help our government know how to do a better job, it is our responsibility to be part of that conversation and to make sure that everybody on the East Side and anybody who listens really has an opportunity to join in. So.
Yeah, maybe that'll be a live show with the mayor. That'll be fun. So,
yeah,
go ahead.
No, go on.
Yeah, so we'll get hard at work at extending an invitation to his communications director to get him on. I think that'll be fun. Donna, this has been a really robust and timely conversation given everything that went on today. This was a very, very busy news day. I want to shout out shout out to the folks who are still going to work in the Capitol, and are unaware if their colleagues have COVID because the GOP refuses to make public positive cases, and so folks are taking extra precautions, but still showing up in Lansing on our behalf, especially our Detroit delegation. We see you. The HB TAP deadline, that is the property tax exemption program for low to moderate income Detroiters. You can receive a partial exemption or a full exemption. That deadline is still set for December the 14th. I want to shout out, oh man, I'm going to cry. I'm going to shout out Dwan Dandridge and Black Leaders Detroit, of which I am a proud member. I think Donna is a proud member of Black Leaders Detroit as well. Who re-granted monies to businesses that are led by and owned by Black folks in the city of Detroit, and established a new award in the name of our brother and our friend, Marlo Stoudemire. Full disclosure, Bridge Detroit received one of the Marlo Stoudemire grants. I had the opportunity to speak with Valencia, and she couldn't be more proud that folks in the city want to honor Marlo's legacy in this way. She also let me know that it's been 9 months since his passing, and every year, this is Marlo's birthday time, every year he threw a huge party for his birthday. And so, while we continue to honor his legacy and while we continue to, do amazing things in his name, let's continue to lift up Valencia and the kids. It isn't easy. It's not easy for those of us who were close to him and were friends with him. So we know it's not easy for his wife and children. So those are my shout outs. Donna, you got shout outs?
Well, just a couple other things too. There is an eviction diversion program that if anybody is at risk of being evicted from their home and they have to pay rent, you and your landlord have until the end of this year to apply. And you can make 100% of the area median income to qualify for this program. And you can, I believe it's DetroitEvictionHelp.com is the, but just Google it if that's not it. You can get the help you need. So please go ahead and take advantage of that. I believe there were about $4 to $5 million that were designated for Detroit. And the last I heard, we spent about 1 million of that. I'm sure that number has gone up since, but we have until the end of the year to spend that money. I want to shout out our State Rep Cynthia Johnson for standing tall and also for holding her colleagues accountable for the racism that she experienced. I want to shout out
appropriately named Whiteford. Sorry.
I want to shout out State Senator Stephanie Chang for her work in introducing a bill that would allow people to go 3 years without having to reapply for the property tax exemption. Stephanie is always in there making solutions. I say she is Michigan's own Elizabeth Warren because Stephanie has all of these policy ideas that she introduces. She's a solutionary, and I love her for it. I want to shout out Shania Marshall Hansford from Ivy Kitchen. I had the opportunity to extend
$1
Flag Star Black Leaders Detroit grant to her. And she's got an amazing restaurant that I still have to go to on Jefferson, not too far from Sinbad. So if you haven't heard of it, check it out. She's an amazing woman. I just really was excited to meet her and learn more about what she's doing. And I want to shout out every single person who has been fighting the good fight to get water turned on. You are appreciated. This is your fight. This is your victory. You raised the issue and you refuse to let people look away as you fought on behalf of women. There's a long list. Also, I want to shout out, this is not actually a happy moment for me, but I'm going to shout out Dylan Brown, who was at ECN and is now working for the city for the Office of Civil Rights. We miss you, Dylan. This is a great move for you. ECN helps people move on and up into the world. And we try to expand our kingdom to the entire city of Detroit so that we can help people who have been inculcated with the values that we share to be planted in various places. I want to shout out Al Hamilton, our senior accountant, who has retired as of December 25th.
Oh, Al wow. Al, I have to send him a text.
Yes, Al has been wonderful. He's actually, I've worked with him for over the past, 10 years in a couple of jobs, and he's just been a solid, dependable, reliable, committed, hardworking, talented man who sets an example of leadership. And when Al is off ill, he still works. Doesn't matter if he's working or not. He's always going to do work. I've never met a person who just refuses to take a vacation like Al, but he is going to invest in himself and his family. Aside from being our senior accountant, he is also the pastor of a church in Southfield. And that dual responsibility has been a lot. And we're going to miss you, Al. But we love you, and I think he's going to possibly stay connected, as will Dylan, in some other way.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Listen, we want you to have a great week. Try to center some joy, find some joy in this week if you can. If not, we understand, and we'll be here same time next week. Thank you for listening. We want you to catch the wave.